Thanks very much. So sometimes the best thing you can do is just start. Even for something as big and complex and scary as starting a business, it's okay to just leap in, especially if you take an iterative approach. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So as Ned mentioned, my name is Collis, and I work at a company called Envato, which I co-founded with my wife, my best friend, and my big brother a few years ago. And today our sites reach around 8 million visitors every month, and we have a staff of around 40. Now I tell you this because when we started a few years ago, between the four of us, we had absolutely zero startup experience. We were 3 designers and a physicist. Before I tell you how we did it, I want to share a quick stat with you, and that's that. Did you know that in golf, the odds of getting a hole-in-one are 12,750 to 1? So what that means is that 12,749 times you're not going to get a hole-in-one. Instead, you're going to make a good attempt, and then you're going to adjust for where you land. And it's kind of the same in startups. Sure, some guys are going to go out there and make a Facebook right off the bat, but for most of us, that's probably not how it's going to work. Instead, a better bet is to iterate. So iteration. An iterative approach is like you build something, you get it out there, you get some people using it, and then so that's your first iteration, and then you reflect. You see what worked, what didn't work, and you improve, and then that's your next iteration. And then after that, you just keep going in these iterations, continuously honing and improving and fine-tuning both your product and your business. One of the key characteristics of this iterative approach is that you're constantly building market share as you go. So, as with each successive iteration, you're attracting new users, new buyers, new members, so that by the time you get to a mature product, you already have a user base using that product. And there's a lot of different ways you can get started. You could start with blogging, like those Stack Overflow guys did. You could have a skeleton app, so with just a few features, or you could begin with open source software or off-the-shelf software. The important thing is to start simple and get started as fast as possible. I want to give you a real-world example from our business, and it's a product called the Tuts Plus Network. It's a set of sites where we publish tutorials on everything from 3D to audio, and they're pretty popular. They get a ton of traffic, and happily they're profitable. But it didn't start out that way. In fact, we weren't really sure if tutorials were going to take off at all. So we began with a super simple HTML site that we built just a couple of hours, put up 3 Photoshop tutorials that I'd written, and we just started submitting around the web to see what would happen. It was called PSD Tuts. And within 2 weeks, one of the tutorials appeared on the Dig homepage, and then we also had it appear on Lifehacker, and we started getting some traffic, and we're like, whoa, this is going to be kind of successful. It seems to have some traction. But the site was pretty basic, so we moved it to WordPress, and now we had RSS so people could keep up. And we were getting some money from advertising, but not that much. So we thought, well, hey, why don't we sell some Photoshop files, the ones that go with the tutorials? And we signed up to a service called eJunkie, which is really cheap, and we started selling them for $2 each. And that was going okay, we're making a couple $100, and not really enough to build a business around, though. So we knew that people were interested in paying money, though, which is always a good thing for a startup. So we thought we just need to give them more value. So we grabbed all the files together and turned them into a subscription. And we charged that out at $9 a month, and sure enough, subscriptions started picking up, and we're getting a couple of $1,000s a month. So it's like, oh, this is a lot better. So then we thought, well, let's franchise this concept out. So we went from Photoshop tutorials, and we thought, let's put web development tutorials. How about audio, vectors? And so it started growing, and the traffic was good, but we weren't really getting as much take-up with the revenue. The subscriptions didn't really seem to work. It was like there wasn't enough value in them, maybe, so only the diehards were taking them. So then we thought, okay, we need to add more value. What if we combine all the subscriptions into one subscription, one mega subscription? That'll be pretty awesome. And sure enough, it really started taking off from there. This is the very first iteration of PSD Tuts that we built, literally in 2 hours. It's a super simple HTML site with like 3 links on it and 2 cracker text ads. The important thing, though, is that it got going quickly. We could just get it out there and find out if there was even any point in continuing. This is the site today. As I say, we've actually got like 8 subsites for all these different types of tutorials, and packed together they form this Tuts Plus network. As you can see, we've gotten a lot more professional over the years. This is our traffic. You can see it's steadily been climbing as we've gone. We're up to about 16 million page views a month, and it's looking pretty good. We look like we're about to break into the top 1,000 sites in the world. So it's been pretty successful. In a second, you'll see the income and the costs and the profit, and you'll see that actually it took 19 months of iterating before we finally figured out a way to actually make some profit. And I think that's kind of important to realize, because actually, if you went back in time and asked me at the beginning, how are you going to make a bunch of sites that get a whole bunch of traffic and which are profitable? To be honest, I wouldn't have had a clue. The only way that we could get there is if we'd gone and iterated. And that's why I believe that sometimes the best thing you can do is just start. Thanks for having me.